Emma staggered through the automatic doors of Royal Hospital for Women in Randwick, the summer heat still clinging to her skin even though it was past 8 at night. A contraction slammed into her like a king wave at Cronulla, doubling her over and forcing a guttural moan from her throat. Brad gripped her elbow too tight, hissing, "Walk faster, Em, we're not missing this because you're dragging your feet." Sheila barged ahead, designer handbag swinging like a weapon, already snapping at the triage nurse. "My daughter-in-law's in labor. We need the best room, private, none of that shared ward rubbish." Her voice carried that familiar edge, sharp enough to cut glass, the same tone she'd used for years to remind Emma she'd never be good enough for her precious son. Emma's legs shook as another contraction built, slower this time, a deep, grinding ache that made her vision blur. She wanted to scream at them both to back off, to let her breathe, but the words stuck behind the fear that had lived in her chest for 3 years. Brad's jealousy, his sudden rages, the way Sheila always took his side and twisted every story until Emma sounded like the villain. Tonight was meant to be different. Tonight was hers and the baby's. They reached the maternity assessment desk. Brad started arguing about parking validation while Sheila leaned over the counter, demanding to know which obstetrician was on call. Emma clutched the edge of the desk, sweat dripping down her back, praying the next contraction would hold off just a minute longer. Then drive. Harper appeared, tall, calm, eyes that missed nothing. He took one look at Emma's pale face, the way Brad's fingers dug into her arm, the bruise blooming faintly under the sleeve of her maternity dress. His expression hardened. "Emma comes with me," he said firmly, stepping between her and her family. "You two wait in the family room." Brad's face flushed crimson. "Like hell, that's my kid being born." Sheila gasped. "I've birthed 3 children. I'm not sitting in some waiting room like a stranger." "Drive." Harper didn't raise his voice. "Hospital policy. Only the birthing mother in the suite until I say otherwise." His gaze flicked to the security button under the desk. "I won't ask again." Emma's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. For the first time in years, someone was standing up for her. But as the nurse guided her toward the lift, she heard Brad's low growl behind her, "This isn't over," and Sheila's venomous whisper promising hell to pay. The lift doors closed just as the next contraction hit, stealing her breath and leaving her trembling with equal parts pain and terror. She was finally alone, but for how long? The birthing suite was cool and dim, a world away from the chaos outside. Emma collapsed onto the bed, legs trembling, as the midwife hooked her up to monitors. The baby's heartbeat thumped steady and strong through the speakers, thump thump thump, like a tiny drum keeping her alive. Another contraction rolled in, deeper than the last, forcing a raw cry from her throat. She gripped the bed rails until her knuckles went white. "Drive." Harper pulled on gloves, his voice low and steady. "You're 8 centimeters, Emma. Not long now. You're safe in here." Safe. The word hit her like a cold splash of water. For the first time in years, she almost believed it. But the walls weren't thick enough to block everything. Through the door she heard Brad's raised voice echoing down the corridor, "I'm her bloody husband, mate. You can't keep me out," followed by Sheila's shrill outrage, "This is discrimination. I'll have your job for this." Each shout landed like a fist against Emma's chest. Her body tensed mid-contraction, making the pain sharper, crueler. What if they forced their way in? What if Brad grabbed her arm again, his fingers digging in just hard enough to bruise but not break skin, whispering later that she'd overreacted? Sweat soaked her gown. The midwife wiped her forehead gently. "Focus on your breathing, love. In through the nose, out through the mouth." Emma tried, but flashes kept coming. Brad slamming the kitchen cupboard so hard the hinges cracked because she'd talk back, Sheila sneering over video call that Emma's stretch marks made her sloppy, and Brad deserved better. The memories tightened around her like wire. "Drive." Harper leaned closer, eyes kind but sharp. "I've seen the marks, Emma. The old ones and the new. You don't have to go home with them." Her breath hitched. She'd hidden the bruises under long sleeves for so long, made excuses, believed it was her fault. Tears spilled hot down her temples as another contraction crested. She bore down instinctively, a primal growl escaping. Outside, security voices joined the argument, firm, unyielding. Brad swore loudly. Something banged against the wall. Emma flinched, heart racing. Would they drag her out the second the baby was born? Claimed she was hysterical, too emotional to make decisions. The midwife squeezed her hand. "Stay with us, Emma. This little one needs you strong." The next contraction hit like a freight train, and Emma screamed through it, pushing with everything she had left. Pain and fear blurred into one fierce surge. She wasn't just birthing her son, she was fighting for both their lives. And in that moment, alone but no longer powerless, she vowed they would never touch her again. The first cry pierced the air like a lifeline, high and indignant, as little Noah slid into the world slick and perfect. Emma sobbed with relief, reaching for him instinctively. The midwife wrapped him in a soft blanket and laid him on her chest, warm, wriggling, his tiny fist curling against her skin. For one breathless moment, everything else vanished. Just her and her son. Safe. But the bubble burst too soon. Drive. Harper checked the monitors, then leaned in close, voice low. Emma, love, you're both doing great. But I need you to listen. I've rung hospital security and the police liaison. You're not leaving here with them tonight. Her heart stuttered. He'd noticed the faded yellow bruises on her upper arms when he'd helped her change gowns, the finger-shaped marks she'd hidden under makeup for months. She'd never said a word, but his eyes had said enough, he knew. Another midwife wheeled in a bassinet, but before Emma could settle Noah, raised voices spilled from the corridor. Brad's bellow carried clear as day. Where's my son? Get out of my way. Footsteps thundered closer. Sheila's venom followed. That little bitch thinks she can keep my grandson from me. I'll have her charged with kidnapping. Emma's body flooded with ice. She clutched Noah tighter, her exhausted arms trembling. The door handle rattled hard. Once, twice. Security barked, back away, sir. But Brad's roar only grew louder. Touch me and I'll sue this whole bloody hospital. Tears blurred Emma's vision. Noah stirred against her, rooting softly, oblivious to the storm outside. She pressed her lips to his downy head, whispering, I've got you, baby. Mummy's got you. But inside, terror clawed. Would they break through? Drag her out half-dressed, claim she was unstable from the birth. Brad had done it before, twisted stories until doctors believed him. Drive. Harper placed a steady hand on her shoulder. They're not getting in. I've documented everything, your injuries, the threats I overheard. Police are 2 minutes out. His calm anchored her, but the pounding on the door didn't stop. Sheila screeched something about family rights. Emma's breath came in shallow gasps, every shout ratcheting the tension higher. Then, silence. Muffled scuffles. A sharp command, hands behind your back. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. Emma's chest loosened just a fraction. Noah let out a small whimper. She rocked him gently, tears dripping onto his blanket. As the midwives drew the curtains and dimmed the lights, protecting mother and child in their quiet cocoon, Emma finally exhaled. The fight wasn't over, but in this room, right now, justice was already rolling toward the ones who'd made her life hell. And for the first time, she believed it might actually win. The humid Sydney night pressed in as Dr. Harper marched Brad and Sheila through the dimly lit rear courtyard behind the maternity wing. Cicadas screamed in the jacaranda trees, the air thick with the scent of eucalyptus and hospital disinfectant. Security flanked them on both sides, torches gleaming. Brad's face was thunder, veins bulging in his neck. This is bloody kidnapping. You've got no right. Sheila clutched her handbag like a shield, lips thin and white. I'm calling our lawyer right now. You'll be ruined for this. Drive. Harper stopped under a harsh floodlight and turned to face them. Sit. His voice was quiet steel. 2 plastic chairs waited on the concrete. They didn't move until security nudged them down. He pulled out his phone, screen already open to a folder of photos, Emma's arms marked with fingerprints, screenshots of threatening texts from Brad, voice recordings from prenatal visits where Emma had finally whispered the truth when Sheila wasn't in the room. Emotional, physical, financial control. All documented. Police have copies. Brad lunged halfway up. That's private. She's my wife, she consented to everything. Sheila hissed, she's dramatic. Always has been. Bruises. She walks into doors. Drive. Harper didn't flinch. Funny how the doors only hit her when you're angry, mate. Red and blue lights flashed at the courtyard gate as 2 police cars rolled in silently. 4 officers stepped out, boots crunching on gravel. Brad's bravado cracked. You can't arrest us. We've done nothing wrong. The senior constable approached, cuffs ready. Bradley James Thompson and Sheila Marie Thompson, you're under arrest for assault occasioning actual bodily harm, coercive control, and threats to inflict harm. You do not have to say anything. Sheila shrieked as cuffs clicked around her wrists. This is outrageous. My grandson is upstairs. Brad twisted, face purple. Emma, you bitch. You planned this. But inside the recovery room, Emma heard none of it. A midwife had drawn the blinds, dimmed the lights, and placed Noah in her arms again. His tiny breaths were soft against her chest. She stroked his cheek, tears falling freely now, not from fear, but from a fierce, blooming relief. Down in the courtyard, the patrol cars pulled away, red-blue lights strobing across the hospital walls. "Drive." Harper watched them go, then looked up toward the maternity floor. He gave a small nod, as if to say, "It's done." Emma felt it in her bones before anyone told her. The weight she'd carried for years lifted, sudden and complete. She kissed Noah's forehead and whispered, "We're free, little man." Finally free. Justice had arrived, not with thunder, but with the quiet click of handcuffs under a Sydney sky. And for the first time in years, Emma smiled a real, unbroken smile.